The harsh click of the deadbolt echoed in the hall, turning our home into my prison. The moment my husband, Michael, left for his business trip, his mother confiscated my phone and disconnected the internet. She was forcing me to quit my job to serve her. She smugly believed that 3 days of starvation would bring me to my knees, but she was mistaken. The dry zip of the suitcase was the only sound in the quiet morning. As Michael wheeled his luggage to the door, his face showed no trace of the lingering affection of a husband about to leave for a 4-day trip. I stood leaning against the wall, a wave of bitterness washing over me as I watched his familiar back. Ever since his mother, Eleanor, had moved in with us from Ohio, our home had ceased to be a sanctuary. It had become a silent battlefield where I was always the one forced to endure and retreat. As soon as Michael stepped out, Eleanor rushed to take his coat, fussing over him with last-minute instructions. He just nodded absently, never once turning to look at me. The wooden door closed. I let out a soft sigh, about to clear the breakfast dishes, but before I could move, a rough hand snatched the phone from my grasp. Startled, I spun around to see my mother-in-law glaring at me. She shoved my phone into the pocket of her cardigan, her voice as cold as ice. "You won't be needing this anymore. From now on, you will stay in this house. You're not leaving until you write your letter of resignation and promise to stay home, take care of the household, and give this family a grandson." I was frozen to the spot, struggling to process her words. Quit my job? The senior accountant position I had poured my heart and soul into for the past 5 years? It wasn't something I could just throw away. I tried to explain, my voice gentle but firm. "Eleanor, I have unfinished work. The company has to file its quarterly tax reports at the end of the month. Please give me my phone back. I'm going to be late for the office. As for having a baby, Michael and I already have a plan. Please don't pressure me like this." Eleanor let out a short, mocking laugh, a cruel smirk playing on her lips. Without another word, she turned and walked out into the hallway. A sense of dread washed over me, and I rushed after her. But before I could reach the front door, the outer steel security gate slammed shut with a deafening clang. It was followed by the metallic jingle of a key turning in the lock. She had locked me in. Horrified, I lunged at the gate, gripping the cold iron bars and shaking them with all my might, but they didn't budge. "What are you doing? Open this door. You have no right to lock me in my own home." My voice echoed for a moment and then died. In response to my outrage, Eleanor calmly walked over to the utility closet in the hall. With a decisive tug, she ripped the internet cable from the wall. The indicator light on the Wi-Fi router inside the apartment blinked out. My heart sank. She had planned this meticulously, severing every line of communication I had with the outside world. I pressed my ear to the door, listening. A few minutes later, I heard the familiar footsteps of my neighbor's missus, Gable from next door and Cheryl from the floor below, returning from their morning walk. My mother-in-law's voice rang out, loud and performative, as if she were addressing a crowd. "Can you believe it? These days, a daughter-in-law makes a few dollars and thinks she can talk back to her husband's mother. In my house, I discipline them from the start. My Michael is too soft-hearted, letting his wife walk all over him, but not me. This little trick will teach her some respect. If she doesn't listen, I'll just lock her up until she learns her place. Isn't it better to be supported by your husband, stay home, and raise children? Why insist on parading yourself around outside, like a decoration?" Mrs. Gable hesitantly offered a few words of caution. "Now, Eleanor, young people have their own ways. What if locking her in like this makes her do something desperate?" My mother-in-law dismissed her with a wave, her tone even more triumphant. "Don't you worry. With 2 locked doors and me holding the keys, with her phone gone and the internet cut, she couldn't fly out of here if she grew wings. You just wait, a few days of hunger and thirst, and she'll be on her knees, crying and begging. When a woman marries, she follows the customs of her husband's family. And in this family, we don't tolerate a daughter-in-law who tries to rule over her mother-in-law." I slid down to the cold tile floor. Each of Eleanor's words was a knife twisting in my heart. A surge of indignation rose in my throat, choking me. This luxury condo, the one my own parents had used their retirement savings to help me make the down payment on, had become my jail. And Michael, my husband, did he know about this? He must have. His indifference this morning was the clearest answer. They had conspired together to corner me. A feeling of helplessness and rage coursed through my veins. I shot up and ran to the balcony. Our apartment was on the 12th floor. The wind whistling through the glass panes made a mournful sound. The Chicago sky was a grim, overcast gray, with dark clouds signaling an impending storm. I gripped the railing, leaning out, desperately searching for a glimmer of hope from the neighbors. I saw Mrs. Gable next door, busy hanging laundry on her balcony. Like a drowning woman clutching at a piece of driftwood, I raised my voice and shouted, "Mrs. Gable, please help me. My mother-in-law locked me in the apartment. Can you call the building management for me?" Startled, Mrs. Gable dropped a plastic hanger. She looked up at me, her face a mask of confusion, but then her eyes darted away. She bent down to pick up the hanger, hastily gathered her basket of unfinished laundry, and retreated inside, sliding her glass door shut with a decisive thud. Her cruel indifference was like a slap in the face. I understood. In this anonymous urban high-rise, people avoided their neighbors' troubles. They saw this as just another family squabble, a typical mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law drama. No one wanted to get involved and call for help. I returned to the living room, the crushing silence so profound I could hear my own frantic heartbeat. Unwilling to surrender, I went back and pounded on the steel gate until my hands were red and raw. "Open the door. What you're doing is illegal. If you don't open it, I'll smash the glass and set off the alarm for the whole building. I'll call the police and report you for unlawful imprisonment." Slow footsteps echoed in the hallway, stopping right outside my door. Eleanor's cold, calculating voice, laced with a sneer, drifted in. "Go ahead, break the glass. Go ahead and scream your lungs out for everyone to laugh at you. You're going to call the police? How, exactly, without a phone? And let's say they do come. I'll simply tell them you've lost your mind, that the pressure from your job caused a psychotic break, that you were destroying property and threatening to kill me. I had to lock the door for my own protection and for your safety. A medical certificate for a mental condition? I can buy one of those easily. Who do you think the police will believe? A poor old woman like me, or a hysterical, insane daughter-in-law? Her cruelty and cunning sent a shiver down my spine. She had planned this perfectly, blocking every possible path of resistance. A chill spread from my back as I staggered away from the door and collapsed onto the sofa. The large apartment suddenly felt suffocating. Memories of when Michael and I first fell in love flooded back like a slow-motion film, leaving a bitter taste. Back then, he was so attentive, promising me a life of happiness and independence. He'd said his mother was old-fashioned and lived in Ohio, that if we lived in the city, there would be no friction. Yet, after only 3 years of marriage, when his career hit a snag, his mother used the excuse of taking care of her son to move in and take over our home. The once promising husband slowly revealed his true, spineless nature, blindly following his mother's every command. He let her criticize my family's humble background, let her impose her archaic views on our marriage. Darkness fell. The electricity was still on, but I didn't bother to turn on the lights. I sat huddled in a dark corner, my tears having long since dried up. I realized a brutal truth. I was utterly alone in this fight. Tears, screams, and weakness would only satisfy the sadistic dominance of my evil mother-in-law. The more I struggled, the tighter the trap would close. This cage was not just made of steel. It was woven from the cruelty of those who called themselves my family. A night passed in terrifying silence. I didn't sleep a wink. My eyes were ringed with dark circles, and my lips were cracked and dry. My stomach began to churn with sharp hunger pangs. I hadn't eaten a single thing since yesterday. Pale morning light filtered through the curtains, illuminating my haggard reflection in the large living room mirror. I looked at myself, vowing not to break. If I got sick or collapsed now, Eleanor would have the perfect excuse to have me committed, just as she had threatened. I had to survive. I had to stay clear-headed and find a way out. Around 9 a.m., I heard a rattling at the front door. The inner wooden door opened a tiny crack, just enough to slide something flat across the floor. The outer steel gate remained locked. A blue plastic plate skidded across the tiles, followed by Eleanor's curt voice. "Eat this and get your strength back to think. When you've seen the light and agree to sign your resignation letter, let me know. If you're still stubborn, you can sit in there and chew on your own foolishness." The plate stopped a few feet from me. On it was a lump of cold, hard rice, a few strands of wilted spinach from last night's dinner, and a couple of pieces of dry, shriveled fried tofu. The sight of the meal, fit for an animal, was a profound insult to my dignity. Tears of self-pity welled up, stinging my eyes. My own parents had scraped together half the down payment for this home, and now I was being offered charity like a beggar in my own house. I turned my head, about to kick the plate away, but a wave of dizziness from hunger washed over me. I took a deep breath, swallowing the bitter lump in my throat. Crying wouldn't solve anything. A hunger strike was the act of a fool. I needed strength to fight them. I wiped my tears, slowly sat on the floor, and picked up the plate. The cold, hard grains of rice were incredibly difficult to swallow. I had to grab the water bottle from the table and take a large gulp to wash the food down. I chewed every bite carefully, finishing every last strand of spinach. I ate to survive. I ate to bide my time for the counterattack. After I finished, I took the plate to the sink and washed it. I splashed cold water on my face, combed my tangled hair, and forced myself to regroup. I realized a direct confrontation would only make Eleanor more smug and defensive. To escape, I needed to make her let down her guard. I had to show her what she most desperately wanted to see: the submission of her rebellious daughter-in-law. That evening, Eleanor repeated the ritual of sliding food through the door. This time, I didn't remain silent. I got on my knees, put my mouth close to the crack in the door, and forced my voice to sound shaky, weak, and full of fear. "Mom, I'm done eating. Could I please have a bottle of warm water? My stomach hurts, and I feel so cold." "I know I was wrong, Mom. I thought about it all night. Everything you said was right. A married woman's duty is to her husband's family. I was wrong to argue with you. Please, just give me a little more time to think about the resignation letter. I promise I won't defy you anymore. Please don't be angry with me." Outside, I heard Eleanor let out a satisfied huff. She didn't reply immediately, probably trying to decide if I was acting or if I had truly broken. A moment later, I heard the rustle of plastic. A new, sealed bottle of water was pushed through the gap. "See? Sooner or later, you have to learn. Behaving from the start would have saved you all this trouble. Just stay in there and rest. I'll make sure you have food and water. You won't starve. When Michael gets back, you two can talk it over. As soon as I have that resignation letter in my hand, we'll open the door, and we can all be a happy family again." I clutched the water bottle, managing to choke out a muffled thank you. Eleanor locked the door again, her heavy footsteps retreating down the hall in a cheerful mood. She was completely convinced her cruelty had shattered my will. She had no idea that on my side of the door, a cold, calculating smile was spreading across my face. The first act of my play of submission was a success. Now, it was time to save myself. Knowing my mother-in-law's guard was down, believing I was now just a compliant puppet awaiting her judgment, I began to execute my escape plan. Time was running out. Michael had said he'd be gone for 4 days, which meant he would be back in less than 2. If I waited for his return, their combined force would make my chances of turning the tables 0. I went into Michael's small home office, a room I rarely entered because he always got annoyed when I tried to tidy his things. The room was a chaotic mess of cardboard boxes filled with old computer parts, cables, and other junk he'd brought home from work. I locked the office door from the inside for security and began my search. I tore through box after box, lifted heavy books, and checked every drawer. Dust flew everywhere, making me sneeze. but I cupped my hand over my mouth to stifle the sound. After nearly 2 exhausting hours, with my shirt soaked in sweat, my hope began to fade. I found plenty of broken gadgets and cracked screens, but nothing I could use to communicate. I reached for the last box, tucked deep in a corner of the closet. Beneath a tangled nest of cables, my fingers brushed against a cold, rectangular metal object. My heart leaped. Trembling, I pulled it into the light. It was one of Michael's old smartphones. The paint on the edges was chipped, and the screen was covered in a web of scratches from his carelessness. He had tossed it aside over a year ago when he bought the latest model. I pressed and held the power button. 5 seconds, 10 seconds passed. The screen remained dark. The battery was completely dead. Undeterred, I dug back into the box, searching for a matching charger. Luckily, I found a compatible charging cable at the bottom. The plastic casing was frayed in several places, exposing the copper wires inside, and the charging block was caked in dust. I carefully cleaned it, plugged it into a wall socket, and connected it to the phone. I sat on the floor, my eyes glued to the black screen, praying silently. The minute of waiting felt like an eternity. Suddenly, the screen flickered to life. A tiny lightning bolt icon appeared, signaling that it was charging. I almost cried out in joy, quickly pressing my hands to my chest to contain my emotions. After another 5 minutes, when the battery indicator showed 2%, I hit the power button. The old interface appeared. The first thing I did was check the SIM card slot. It was empty. Michael had moved his old SIM to his new phone long ago. No SIM card meant no emergency calls to 911, but I didn't despair. I quickly swiped down the notification bar on the partially responsive touchscreen and turned on the Wi-Fi. The radar icon spun for a moment, then displayed a list of nearby networks. My home network was gone, of course, but the neighbors' networks were all listed, and every single one was password protected. I racked my brain, trying to recall past conversations. My eyes stopped on one network name, Peterson, guest, 12, Mrs. Peterson was an elderly woman who lived in the condo diagonally across the hall. Last month, her grandson had visited, and she hadn't known how to change her Wi-Fi password, so she'd asked me to help. I closed my eyes, trying to visualize the numbers I had typed on her phone. HP 1958, I muttered, my fingers trembling as I typed each character into the password field. After the last letter, I held my breath and hit connect. The word authenticating blinked, making my chest tighten, and then the words connected appeared in green. The Wi-Fi signal was weak, only 2 bars, but at that moment, it was the brightest light, illuminating my path to survival. The old phone began to heat up. The battery percentage was unstable, dropping from 5% to 4% in a flash. The frayed cable had a poor connection. Every time I moved, the power cut out. I knew I didn't have much time. I couldn't download new apps. The phone's memory was full, and the connection was too slow. I scanned the existing apps. To my immense luck, the Facebook Messenger icon was still there, and more importantly, Michael had once logged in with a secondary account. By some fluke, the old session was still active, and his contacts were saved. I quickly searched for the name David Chen. David was my best friend from college. We had shared everything during those years. Now, he was a sharp, experienced lawyer specializing in civil and family law. More than anyone, David knew my family situation and what I had sacrificed for this marriage. In this life-or-death moment, he was the only person I could fully trust. I opened the message window. I ignored the old, trivial messages and focused on composing my plea for help. David, it's Sarah. I'm in danger. My mother-in-law has taken my phone, cut the internet, and locked me in my apartment for 2 days. She's trying to force me to quit my job and steal my assets. I'm using Michael's old phone and a neighbor's Wi-Fi. The battery is dying, and the connection is terrible. I can't call out. Listen carefully. Tomorrow, by 8 a.m. at the latest. If you don't get an I'm safe message from me, immediately call the Chicago PD and send them to my address to rescue me. More importantly, please start preparing the paperwork for my divorce and file an emergency motion to freeze our primary asset, this condo. Do not let Michael or his mother transfer it. I'm fighting back. Please help me, my friend. I reread the message one last time, attached my current location, and hit send. The small circle next to the message spun endlessly. Time seemed to stop. If the connection dropped now, all hope would be lost. Ping, a small magical sound. The word sent appeared on the screen. I let out a sigh of relief, sweat beading on my forehead. A few seconds later, the status changed to seen. David was online. I waited anxiously for his reply. Soon, the typing indicator appeared. Sarah, stay calm, he wrote. I've screenshotted and saved everything. I'll do exactly as you asked. Stay safe. Do not provoke her. I will prepare the strongest possible legal case. Be strong. I've got your back. Reading his words, all the pent-up fear and despair broke through. Tears streamed down my face, blurring the screen. I wasn't alone anymore. I had an ally. A solid legal shield was ready to protect me. I quickly typed a short thank you and sent it. Just then, the screen flickered and went black. The old phone had finally died. I gently unplugged the charger, carefully placed the phone back in its original spot in the box, and covered it with the tangle of cables. I stood up, dusted myself off, and walked out of the office. The sky outside was still gray, but a fire now burned brightly within me. Fear was replaced by an iron will to fight. Eleanor thought I was a helpless bird trapped in a cage, but she was wrong. My patience had reached its limit. The real storm, the one I was about to create, was just beginning. Just wait, I thought. Tomorrow is going to be a very long day for you and your son. Darkness enveloped the large apartment. I didn't turn on the lights, letting the shadows embrace me. In contrast to the fear and desperation of the first night, a strange sense of peace now settled over me. The message to David was a lifeline. I sat cross-legged on the sofa, my eyes calmly watching the streetlights of bustling Chicago below. Around 8 p.m., the familiar sound of shuffling footsteps returned. It was my mother-in-law. This time, she didn't bring food. A key scraped in the lock, followed by her sharp, imperious voice. Sarah, you listen to me. Michael is coming home tomorrow morning. His flight lands at 7 a.m., so he'll be here around 8. This is your last chance to think things over. You're an educated woman. You should know what's best. A wife's place is to manage the household and have children. What good does your career do for this family? When Michael gets home, I will open this door. If there's a neatly written resignation letter on the table, I'll pretend the last few days never happened. We can all be a happy family again. But if you insist on being stubborn, don't blame an old woman for being cruel. I'll call your parents in Ohio and see how they raised a daughter who disrespects her husband's mother. Her threats no longer scared or hurt me. They only deepened my contempt. She was using my parents as a weapon, thinking they were my greatest weakness. She didn't know it was precisely because of them, the hard-working people who had poured their savings into helping me buy this home, that I could not and would not surrender. I took a deep breath, stood up, and walked to the door. Through the small crack, I could vaguely see her portly silhouette, hands clasped behind her back, face full of arrogance. I pressed my face close to the door, lowering my voice to a soft, submissive tone. You're right, Mom. Being alone in here these past few days, I've had a lot of time to think. A woman's family should always be her priority. I realize I've been foolish and selfish, thinking only of my career and neglecting my duties as a wife and daughter-in-law. I'll write the resignation letter tonight. I'll give it to Michael myself when he gets home tomorrow, so you both can have peace of mind. I only ask one thing. Please don't call my parents. They're not in the best of health, and this news would only worry them. Hearing my honeyed words, Eleanor let out a triumphant laugh. There, you see? A little hardship is all it takes to open your eyes. It's good that you're thinking of your parents. I take no pleasure in airing my family's dirty laundry. If you're obedient, I'll treat you well. But if you act up, I'll fight you to the end. Now, get some sleep. You don't want your husband to come home to a ghost. And remember what I said. Have that letter ready." I didn't reply, just murmured a soft okay. Her footsteps faded down the hall. The moment the sound disappeared, the mask of submission fell from my face. I stood up straight, a cold smile playing on my lips. She thought I would obediently write that letter? She thought her spineless son had the right to dictate my life? She was dead wrong. Tonight, I would not sleep. I had too much to do. I went into our bedroom and turned on the dim bedside lamp. I opened the closet and pulled out a small suitcase. I didn't pack many clothes. They weren't important right now. I opened a drawer in my vanity and took out the small digital safe. Only Michael and I knew the code. I punched it in and removed all my essential documents: my driver's license, social security card, passport, and our marriage certificate. Most importantly, I took out the notarized copy of the deed to our condo and the folder of bank transfer receipts proving the money my parents and I had contributed. I carefully placed these documents in the black leather briefcase I used for work. This was my sharpest weapon for the battle to come. With that done, I selected my most professional business suit and hung it up, ready for the morning. Everything was set. The sky began to lighten. I hadn't slept at all, but I felt strangely alert, fueled by adrenaline. Today was the day I would walk out of this cage, and I would do it with my head held high. I stepped into the shower, letting the cold water wash away the humiliation and weakness of the past few days. I washed and dried my hair, then put on the elegant, gray power suit. I applied my makeup meticulously, covering the dark circles under my eyes and adding a touch of blush to my pale cheeks. I chose a bold, powerful red lipstick. Looking in the mirror, I saw that the weak, submissive woman was gone. Today, Sarah was a warrior. At 7:30 a.m., Eleanor's phone rang in the living room. It must be Michael, calling to say he had landed and was on his way home. Sure enough, a few minutes later, I heard the key turn in the lock of the outer gate. Carrying my black leather briefcase, I walked calmly and stood directly behind the inner wooden door. Eleanor unlocked and slid open the steel gate. She pushed the wooden door inward, a smug smile of victory on her face. But the smile vanished the instant she saw me. She had clearly pictured a disheveled, defeated daughter-in-law, ready to kneel and present her resignation letter. Instead, she was confronted by a sharp, beautiful, impeccably dressed woman, radiating an aura of cold, overwhelming power. Eleanor was stunned for a moment, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and anger. She pointed a finger at me, her voice a hiss. "What is this? Dressed up like that? Where do you think you're going? Where is your resignation letter? Michael will be here any minute. Are you trying to defy me?" I didn't answer her question. I looked directly into her furious eyes and spoke clearly, each word sharp and distinct in the quiet apartment. "Good morning, Eleanor. I'm going to work. My workday is about to start. As for the resignation letter, you can wait for it in the next life." With that, I strode forward. Eleanor instinctively spread her arms to block my path, reaching out to grab the lapel of my blazer. But I was ready. I forcefully brushed her rough hand away. The push wasn't hard enough to make her fall, but it was enough to make her stumble back a few steps. Seizing the opportunity, I slipped past her and out into the hallway. Panicked, Eleanor lunged after me, screaming, "You treacherous witch! You get back here!" I spun around. With my left hand on the handle of the steel gate and my right hand on the wooden door, I slammed the inner door shut. While she was disoriented inside, I pulled the outer steel gate closed with a loud, metallic crash that echoed down the corridor. I didn't lock it. She had the key, but the force of the slam made her recoil. Without a backward glance, I walked toward the elevator, leaving her furious pounding and vulgar curses behind me. The air outside my prison tasted sweet. I took a deep, cleansing breath as the elevator descended. I had won the first skirmish, but the war for my justice and my assets had just begun. Stepping out of the building, the warm Chicago summer morning hit my face, but it felt exhilarating. I hailed a cab. "Where to, ma'am?" the friendly driver asked. In a clear, firm voice, I gave him the address. The Cook County Recorder of Deeds office, please. It's urgent. As the taxi pulled away, I took out the phone Eleanor had confiscated, the one I had snatched from the living room table in the chaos. I powered it on. A flood of missed calls and messages from work poured in. I ignored them all. The most important thing right now was my parents' hard-earned money. The cab stopped. I paid the fare and walked briskly inside. The office was bustling. I took a number and sat down on a waiting bench. I looked at the purple bruises on my wrists, a result of my desperate pounding on the gate. These marks, I realized, were my most concrete evidence. When my number was called, I approached the counter. I placed my ID, marriage certificate, and the notarized copy of the deed on the desk. "Good morning," I said to the clerk. "I need to file an emergency injunction to halt all transactions, sales, transfers, mortgages on this property. I am in the process of filing for divorce, and there is a serious dispute over assets." The clerk glanced at the documents, her expression weary. "Ma'am, to freeze marital assets, you need a court order. We can't process a unilateral request like this." I had anticipated this. I calmly took out my phone and showed her the pictures of my bruised wrists. Then, I pulled up my sleeve to reveal the actual marks. I spoke firmly, but with a calculated tremor in my voice. "Please, listen to me. My parents gave me $100,000 of their retirement savings for the down payment on this condo. But my husband and his mother have been emotionally abusive. They locked me in our home for the past 3 days, cut off all communication, and tried to force me to sign over my rights to the property. I just escaped this morning. My lawyer is currently filing a criminal complaint for unlawful imprisonment. If your office doesn't accept my request for a temporary freeze, and my husband comes in tomorrow with the original deed to sell or transfer the property, your office could be held liable for facilitating the disposal of assets in a criminal case. I'm begging you, please accept this petition to protect the legal rights of an abused woman." The people in line around us began to murmur. The clerk, faced with my resolute argument and the visible evidence on my arms, wavered. She asked me to wait and disappeared into a back office. 10 minutes later, she returned with a form titled Affidavit for Injunction on Disputed Property. "Fill this out completely, sign it, and attest that you are fully responsible before the law for the truthfulness of your statement. We will accept the file and place a cautionary flag on this property in the citywide notary and title system. Any transaction related to this address will be blocked pending a final court ruling." I was overjoyed. I quickly filled out the form, signed it, and received a stamped copy of the receipt. That flimsy piece of paper now held immense power. I had successfully blocked Michael and Eleanor's plot to steal my assets. This move would surely catch them completely off guard. Securing the receipt in my briefcase, I smiled and walked out of the government building, heading straight for my office. It was 9 a.m. when I walked into work. The atmosphere was strange. Instead of the usual clatter of keyboards, people were gathered in small groups, whispering. When they saw me, impeccably dressed and made up, they fell silent. Dozens of eyes, curious, pitying, some with a hidden trace of judgment, followed me to my desk. Before I could even turn on my computer, Jessica, the head of HR and my direct manager, came over. Her face was tense. "Sarah, can I see you in the conference room for a minute? Something urgent has come up." I followed her into the glass-walled room. She drew the blinds. "Is everything all right?" she asked, her voice grave. "Early this morning, a woman claiming to be your mother-in-law called the main office line. She was hysterical, crying, saying that work pressure had caused you to have a mental breakdown. She accused you of stealing a large sum of money from the family and running away. The board is very concerned. It reflects badly on the accounting department. As a manager of the company's finances, rumors about theft or mental instability are, well, they're the worst kind." I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms to control the rage boiling inside me. Eleanor was truly venomous. Unable to imprison me physically, she had resorted to destroying my reputation. I looked Jessica directly in the eye, my voice steady. "Jessica, you've worked with me for 5 years. You know my character and my work ethic. I assure you, every word she said is a malicious lie. The truth is, for the past 3 days, I was unlawfully imprisoned by my mother-in-law. She locked me in my home and took my phone to force me to quit this job. I managed to get out this morning. I have evidence of the emotional abuse, and I just came from the county recorder's office, where I filed an injunction to stop them from selling our condo out from under me. If the company needs it, I am prepared to have my lawyer come here and speak with you directly to protect my good name. I am not insane, and I have not stolen a single penny. Jessica's expression softened with relief. I believe you, Sarah. I knew something was off when I heard about the call. Someone who is mentally unstable couldn't possibly produce the flawless tax reports you do. Don't worry. I'll report the true situation to the board. But please, be careful. Your mother-in-law sounds like a real piece of work. Just then, my desk phone rang. The caller ID showed it was the building management. I put the call on speaker. A man's officious voice came on the line. Miss Sarah, your mother-in-law was just in our office. She reported that you were exhibiting destructive behavior, were mentally unstable, and had run away from home. She requested we pull the security camera footage to track your movements and instruct security to deny you entry to the building. We're calling to verify. My fury reached its peak. I adopted my most professional, intimidating tone. Good morning. I suggest you and the entire building management record this call. I am perfectly sane and in control of my faculties. The information provided to you by my mother-in-law constitutes slander and defamation of character. Furthermore, I am a legal co-owner of that condominium. You have absolutely no right to deny me access to my own home. If you collaborate in this act of slander without a court-ordered medical evaluation, my lawyer will sue the Management Association for violating my residency rights. And by all means, pull the security footage. It will show you exactly who was unlawfully imprisoning whom for the last 3 days. There was a stunned silence on the other end, followed by a hasty apology and a promise not to interfere in my family matters. I hung up, a bitter smile on my face. My silence and patience had only ever emboldened my abusers. It was time to wield the power of the law. At lunchtime, I called my lawyer friend, David. We met at a quiet cafe near my office. He was already there, his laptop open next to a thick file folder. Sarah, you had me worried sick, he said, jumping up as I approached. I was about to call the police this morning when I got your safe message. Seeing you like this, I take it the Great Escape was a success? I ordered a chamomile tea and recounted the entire morning's events. When I finished, David slapped the table, grinning. Brilliant! Absolutely brilliant! Going straight to the recorder of deeds was a masterstroke. You hit them right where it hurts. Their greed. I'm so proud of you. I took a sip of tea. David, I've made my decision. I can't live with a spineless husband and a monster-in-law anymore. I need you to help me end this, cleanly and decisively. David flipped open a notepad. You name it. First, I began, I need a formal legal warning letter sent to our home address and to Michael's workplace. It should detail the unlawful imprisonment, emotional abuse, and slander. Warn them that if this behavior continues, I will press criminal charges. Second, draft a marital settlement agreement. The condo must be split 50/50. I want my initial investment back, plus what I've paid for renovations. Third, and most important, prepare my petition for a unilateral divorce. I want to be free. David nodded, scribbling notes. Consider it done. I have templates for all of this. I'll have a paralegal bring them to your office for your signature this afternoon. But Sarah, where will you stay? You can't go back there. I've already handled it, I said. I found a room in a secure, serviced apartment building. I'm picking up the key after work. I have my bank cards and important documents. I need to show them that I don't need their fake family or their prison of a home. That evening, I moved into my new room. It was small but clean and safe. As the door closed behind me, I sank onto the bed. For the first time in 3 years, there were no accusations, no prying eyes, only quiet and freedom. I took out the legal documents David had sent over and signed my name with a firm, decisive hand. I knew the biggest storm would hit when Michael saw these papers, but now I had a legal shield and a heart of steel. Let it come, I thought. I'm ready. The phone vibrated incessantly on the nightstand in my temporary apartment. The screen lit up with a name that now felt utterly alien. Michael. He had undoubtedly come home to his mother's twisted version of events and was now desperately trying to find me. After the 10th call went to voicemail, I took a deep breath and answered. Before I could speak, his enraged voice assaulted my ear. "Where the hell are you, Sarah? Do you have any idea what I came home to? The house is in chaos, my mother is sick with worry, and the neighbors are whispering, 'What kind of wife and daughter-in-law are you?' Assaulting my mother and running away. You get your ass back here and apologize to her right now." I held the phone away from my ear, a humorless smile on my face. He hadn't changed, not one question about where I had been, if I was hungry, if I was scared. In his eyes, his mother was always the victim, and I was always the villain. My voice was calm and cold. I didn't assault anyone. Your mother tripped when she tried to illegally block my exit. If you want to talk like adults, meet me at the Daily Grind Cafe on Oak Street. You have 30 minutes. If you're not there, all future communication will be through my lawyer. I hung up before he could rage further. I refreshed my lipstick, grabbed my briefcase, and walked out. The Daily Grind was where we used to go on dates when we first met. I arrived first and chose a corner table by the window. 20 minutes later, Michael stormed in, his shirt rumpled and his face red with fury. He slammed his hands on the table as he sat down, causing nearby patrons to stare. "You've got a lot of nerve," he snarled. "You make a little money as an accountant, and suddenly you think you're a queen." My mother was right. A woman obsessed with her career can't take care of her family. She was only doing what was best for you. She wanted you to quit so you could rest, so you could give us a son. Is that so hard to understand? I looked at him, a profound sense of disappointment washing over me. Any love I once had for this man was well and truly dead. "What's best for me?" I replied, my voice dangerously quiet. "So she locked me in, took my phone, cut my internet, and starved me for 3 days like an animal? So she fed me scraps through a crack in the door? You're an educated man, Michael, a project engineer. Tell me, in what country is it legal for a mother-in-law to falsely imprison her daughter-in-law?" He faltered, his eyes shifting nervously at the mention of the law. But his patriarchal arrogance quickly returned. "Don't you threaten me with the law. This is a family matter. She was just trying to scare you into being more obedient. Why couldn't you just show her a little respect? Go home, get on your knees, apologize, write the resignation letter, and this will all be over." I shook my head, my patience completely gone. I will never go back to that house, and I will never, ever bow my head to your cruel mother. You can go home and tell her to prepare for the consequences of her illegal actions. My cold defiance seemed to snap something in him. He leaned forward, his voice a menacing hiss. "What did you say? Are you threatening to sue my mother? You ungrateful woman. I'm telling you, if you walk out of that house, you will leave with nothing but the clothes on your back. That condo was paid for with my parents' blood, sweat, and tears. It's Hoang family property. You have no right to it. If you push this, I'll sell it tomorrow and throw you out on the street." His threats were laughable. The truth was, the condo cost $800,000. His parents gave him $100,000. My parents, scraping together their retirement savings, gave me $100,000 for the down payment. The remaining $600,000 was a mortgage in both our names. A mortgage whose hefty monthly payments were covered almost entirely by my salary. Now, to get rid of me, he intended to steal my parents' life savings. The greed was breathtaking. Without a word, I calmly opened my briefcase. I took out a single, official-looking document with a red stamp at the bottom. I slid it across the glass table toward him. You're right. It is a shared property. And if I leave with nothing, you get nothing either. Read this. Michael's brow furrowed as he picked up the paper. It was the official receipt from the County Recorder of Deeds, detailing my request to freeze all transactions on the property due to a pending legal dispute and evidence of intent to fraudulently dispose of assets. His eyes widened in disbelief. The hand holding the paper began to shake. The arrogant fury on his face dissolved into pure, unadulterated panic. What is this? What have you done, Sarah? Who gave you the right to block the sale of our house? Do you know what this means? We can't sell it. We can't mortgage it. We can't do anything. You're insane. You go back there and withdraw this petition right now. I smiled, a thin, contemptuous smile. I'm not insane. I'm protecting my assets and my parents' assets. Did you really think I didn't know your plan? Lock me up, force me to quit my job, then kick me out and keep everything? I beat you to it. As of this morning, that condo is frozen. You can't sell it, you can't leverage it, and you certainly can't throw me out. His face was ashen. He reached out to snatch the paper and tear it up, but I was faster, pulling it back and placing it securely in my briefcase. Tearing that up is useless. The original filing is in the county's system. It's done. And if you or your mother try any more of your thuggish tactics or slander me again, this piece of paper will be the least of your worries. I stood up, placing a $5 bill on the table for my tea. I didn't want to owe this man anything. I turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving him frozen in his chair, his face a mask of horrified realization that the docile wife he thought he could control was gone forever. The next morning, my lawyer's formal warning letters, sent by courier, arrived. One was delivered to Michael at his construction company. The other was signed for at our condo, undoubtedly by Eleanor herself. 15 minutes after David confirmed their delivery, my phone rang. It was Michael. I turned on the call recorder. "What the hell are you doing, Sarah?" he screamed. "Are you crazy? You hired a lawyer to send threats to my office? My boss just called me in to ask what was going on. Do you want me to be humiliated? My mother is at home, hysterical, after reading your lawyer's garbage. You tell that lawyer to retract those letters right now." His voice was laced with a fear he couldn't hide. "I'm not threatening anyone," I replied, my voice like ice. "It's the proper legal procedure. I warned you yesterday. That letter is just the beginning. I am not signing any divorce papers, and I'm not splitting any assets," he blustered. "Go ahead and sue." "Fine," I said. "The court can grant a unilateral divorce. As for the assets, I have every bank statement, every receipt, and every signed loan document from my parents. You can't deny it. From this moment on, direct all communication to my lawyer, David Chen. I have no further obligation to speak with you." I ended the call and blocked his number. The ball was now in their court. Their desperation reached a new low that afternoon. My manager, Jessica, burst into my office, pale and out of breath. "Sarah, you need to get down to the lobby, now. Your mother-in-law is making a huge scene." When the elevator doors opened on the ground floor, I was met with chaos. In the middle of the polished marble lobby, Eleanor was sitting on the floor. She was wearing old, rumpled clothes, her hair was a mess, and she was wailing, beating her chest theatrically. "Oh, heaven help me!" she shrieked to the crowd of onlookers. "Look at my cruel daughter-in-law." We took her in, loved her like our own daughter, and now that she makes money, she throws her old mother-in-law out. She's divorcing my son to steal our home. She even hired thugs and lawyers to threaten to put me in jail. Somebody punish this ungrateful, heartless woman. I pushed through the crowd. When Eleanor saw me, her performance escalated. She crawled toward me, trying to grab my legs. "There she is. Look at her. She's trying to kill her own mother-in-law." I stepped back, out of her reach. I stood over her, my arms crossed, and spoke in a clear, loud voice that carried across the entire lobby. "Are you done with your performance, Eleanor? Why are you here? To force me to withdraw the divorce petition? To make me sign away the assets my parents paid for? You talk about disrespect. Why don't you explain to everyone here what part of a mother's teaching involves unlawful imprisonment, starvation, and cutting off all communication for 3 days? A murmur went through the crowd. The tide of opinion began to turn. Eleanor faltered, but quickly resumed her act, sobbing that I was lying. I had no intention of arguing. I took out my phone and dialed 3 numbers. Just as I was about to press call, a taxi screeched to a halt outside. Michael burst out and ran inside. Seeing his mother on the floor, he rushed to her side. "Mom, what's wrong? What happened?" She collapsed into his arms. "Michael, she's humiliating me. Your wife is trying to destroy me." Michael's face contorted with rage. He turned on me, his eyes bloodshot. "Sarah, have you lost your mind? Look what you've done to my mother. Get on your knees and apologize to her, right now, in front of everyone." His delusion was sickening. I ignored him and pressed the call button. "Hello, 911? I'd like to report a public disturbance." I calmly gave the operator the details, explaining that the 2 individuals causing the scene were the same people who had illegally detained me days earlier and against whom I was pressing charges. Hearing me call the police, Michael and Eleanor froze. Less than 10 minutes later, a police car arrived. 3 officers entered the lobby. "I'm the one who called," I said, stepping forward and handing them my ID and a copy of the lawyer's letter. "These 2 individuals are causing a public disturbance and slandering me. The woman, Eleanor, is the subject of a pending criminal complaint for unlawful imprisonment, as detailed in this legal notice." The lead officer read the document, his expression grim. He turned to Michael and Eleanor. Faced with uniformed police officers and undeniable evidence, their arrogance evaporated. The officer issued them a stern warning for disturbing the peace and informed them that a formal investigation into the false imprisonment claim would proceed if I filed my report. Humiliated, Michael wordlessly helped his trembling mother to her feet and led her out of the building under the scornful gaze of dozens of onlookers. The final act of their desperate play came a week later. I received a call from an unknown number. It was Michael, his voice thick with fake panic and grief. "Sarah, it's me. Mom's in the ICU at Northwestern Memorial. She had a massive heart attack. The doctors say it's critical." My gut screamed that it was a trap. "If she's sick, the doctors will treat her," I said coldly. "Calling me won't help." "Please, Sarah," he sobbed. "The doctor said it was brought on by stress. In her delirium, she keeps calling your name. She regrets everything. Please, just come to the hospital. Let her see you one last time, so she can have some peace." It was a pathetic, transparent guilt trip. I paused for a moment before answering. "Northwestern, you said? Text me the room number. I'll be there." I immediately called David. As I expected, he confirmed it was a classic manipulation tactic. "Stay put," he said. "I'll pick you up. We'll go together." When we walked into room 405, we found Michael by the bedside, looking distraught. Eleanor was lying in the bed with her eyes closed. The heart monitor next to her beeped with a perfectly steady, normal rhythm. A clear oxygen mask lay uselessly on her chest, not even on her face. Michael's face lit up when he saw me, but fell when he saw David walk in behind me, carrying a thick leather briefcase. What is he doing here? This is a private family matter. Ignoring him, I walked to the foot of the bed. At the sound of our voices, Eleanor began her performance, moaning and clutching her chest. "Sarah, is that you?" she whispered weakly. "Have you come to see me one last time? Please, forgive an old woman. Tell your lawyer to drop the lawsuit, so I can die in peace." I looked at her, my face a mask of ice. I gave David a slight nod. He stepped forward and placed a thick stack of documents on the bedside table with a sharp thud. "You can stop the act, Eleanor," I said, my voice ringing with finality. "The heart monitor says you're perfectly healthy. I'm not here for your crocodile tears. I'm here to end this." Michael lunged for the papers. "How dare you speak to a sick woman like that?" "Get out!" "Go ahead, tear them up," David said calmly. We have dozens of copies. That is a petition for an amicable divorce and a marital settlement agreement. You have two choices, I continued, my gaze fixed on them. 1. You sign those papers, you return every cent of my money and my family's money, and we go our separate ways. 2. You refuse, and tomorrow morning, my lawyer files our evidence, the audio recordings, the photos of my bruises, the sworn affidavits with the district attorney's office. Your mother will face felony charges for unlawful imprisonment, which carries a sentence of 1 to 3 years in prison. And you, Michael, a project engineer with a criminal record, how long do you think your company will keep you? Your career will be over. The choice is yours. At the mention of prison, Eleanor's moaning stopped. Her eyes flew open, wide with genuine terror. Michael stood frozen, the color draining from his face. He snatched up the settlement agreement, his eyes scanning the terms. "This is outrageous," he sputtered. "You want half the condo, and you want the 100,000 from your parents back? My parents gave us 100,000 too. I worked. I contributed." David stepped forward, opening another folder filled with bank statements. "Let's talk facts, shall we, Mr. Hoang?" he said smoothly. "Yes, your parents contributed $100,000. And 3 days later, Sarah's parents wired $100,000 into her account with the memo for condo purchase. That makes the initial investment equal. As for the $600,000 mortgage, for the past 36 months, the nearly $5,000 monthly payment has been automatically debited from Sarah's salary account. In total, she has paid nearly $180,000 towards the mortgage. Furthermore, she paid over $60,000 for renovations and furnishings, all documented here. Your bank statements, meanwhile, show your salary was spent on personal hobbies, expensive gadgets, and nights out with friends. Your contribution to household expenses was less than 10% of Sarah's. Legally and morally, she is entitled to every penny she's asking for. In fact, if this went to court, a judge would likely award her a much larger share. Every number David read was a slap in the face. The truth was laid bare. Michael was a freeloader who had conspired with his mother to steal from the wife who had supported him. Finally, broken and defeated, Michael picked up the pen. With a trembling hand, he signed his name on every page. "You're good," he muttered, not looking at me. "You calculated everything perfectly." "It's called justice," I replied. "Sell the condo. When the money is in my account, we will finalize the divorce, and I will withdraw the criminal complaint. Any delays or tricks, and the deal is off." 3 weeks later, the condo was sold. $500,000, my initial investment, my share of the equity, and the renovation costs, was wired into my bank account. Today, standing outside the courthouse with the final divorce decree in my hand, I felt the shackles of my old life fall away. I took a deep breath of the free, clean air. I hailed a cab, giving the driver the address of a quiet, new development in the suburbs. It was time for Sarah to build a new life, one that was truly her own. I bought a small, sunny 2-bedroom condo on the 8th floor of a building surrounded by green space. I spent a month decorating it myself, painting the walls a warm cream color, filling it with simple, minimalist furniture, and planting a balcony full of roses. I hosted a small housewarming party with my closest friends: David, my savior; Jessica, my supportive boss; and a few friends from college. We celebrated my new beginning, my return to myself. Late that night, after everyone had left, a text message from an unknown number lit up my phone. "Sarah, it's Michael. I had to buy a burner phone to message you. It's so cold and empty in the apartment I'm renting with Mom. She's sick all the time, consumed with regret. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I know I was a terrible husband. If I could go back, I would have protected you. Can you give me one more chance? A chance to make it right? I miss you." The apology had come 3 years too late. I no longer felt anger or sadness, only a vast, peaceful emptiness where my love for him used to be. I smiled, a small, gentle smile of release. Without typing a single word in reply, I blocked the number, permanently severing the last tie to my past. I picked up my cup of tea and looked up at the star-filled sky. The storm was over, and my new life, brilliant and boundless, was just beginning.